How would you feel if, when you were Deputy Prime Minister, you got called into the PM's office and they said, listen, Barnaby, we want you to go to NATO because the Prime Minister, me, I can't afford to go there in case Donald Trump won't meet me again. And you get sent and you're in the back row up on the right-hand side, as far away from Donald Trump as possible, and you still don't get to meet him and you've got to come back home. How would you have felt about that, my friend?
Feel like the current seating arrangements in the chamber, actually. But look, something's gone seriously wrong here, hasn't it? I mean, our relationship with the United States is obviously it's got problems, and that's really bad for us. You know, we, as I've said before in other mastheads or other media, our defence force is way, way, way below where it needs to be. And we live in the most precarious of times, I would say, since probably equivalent to the Cold War, but since the Second World War. And we need to have a very close relationship with the United States. By gosh, we need them more than they need us. And we just don't seem to be we're not even able to crack a cup of tea. And this is no good. And yeah, my poor old Richard Marles, he looked like he shouldn't be there. He'll say, I mean, if he was any further out, he'd be in the room next door, wouldn't he?
Listen, those NATO countries, they've now said, OK, we're going to go, probably up to 3.5 on defence spending, and then the next level up to 5 on things like roads and bridges and things in Europe that could be improved in case there is any sort of a ground war. So there must be huge pressure now on Miles and Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong and that whole crowd to at least have a national discussion about what more we need to spend. I just had a 4-star retired general from America on the program saying, listen, the region you're in, you've got to get serious, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, as I've been saying for years, for decades, we've got to become as powerful as possible, as quickly as possible. And that doesn't just mean planes, ships, tanks. It also means that you've got to have connectivity and roads. So trying to seal the outback weight so you can go get troops from Townsville down to Perth, straight across the nation. This is the sort of thing Eisenhower did to shore up the United States of America. And we've got to make sure that we've got ports that we can move ships in, move ships out. We have to have baseload electricity so we can actually build things. Yet we don't. We're in a war against the weather. We're raging against the rain. That's where we are. Climate policy. And that is not going to take over Australia. If we get this wrong, the defence of our nation, we will lose this nation. And that's what Americans and others keep telling us. Like, do you understand, Australia, how precarious the world is? And it's most precarious in the region that you are in. But you don't seem to be able to lock onto this. And you're distracted by all this other garbage, net zero. I mean, forget about net zero. You'll have net zero Australia if you get this one wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, you were quite right to bring this up all those years. I mean, you championed very much the train service in the middle of Australia that had to be built so we could, get freight moved up there. I mean, how are you going to move heavy ordnance if you can't even use the train lines properly?
Well, this is the train line for your listeners that goes from Melbourne through to Brisbane through the inland, and that's how you move massive amounts of stuff quickly and efficiently. If what you're relying on is things such as the Pacific Highway, you probably notice the Pacific Highway goes along the Pacific. So if something goes wrong, it's a very easy road to take out. And, it's not being melodramatic. That's how you got to think if you're going to protect your nation in a time of war. And you've actually got to have the capacity to provide every component for artillery shells, to provide to do your very best to manufacture things to fix your planes, to have the capacity to build your ships. And we don't have any of that.
Exactly.
We always, even when we do, we borrow components from elsewhere. We don't seem to be able to do the whole job ourselves. And if you get your supply lines cut off, and here's the obvious one, where's your fuel coming from? You've only got 2 oil refineries left in Australia.
Yep, we haven't got much fuel left in the tank. Barnaby, always good to catch up with you, mate. Thank you very much.